Since you can't really edit unless you have something to draw, we're going to be practicing some more drawing while we edit. A little while ago, I had gone into background and I had shown you a sketch that I had, and it isn't really a sketch. This is actually a clip from a free source on the internet, and it was just a copy and paste or I guess I used clip, I think, to copy this and turn it into something that I could import in and then trace it. So I use this in my Dresden plate quilt. So let's just first try drawing the shape or tracing over the top of it with our nodes on, with this type of spacing, with this kind of drawing with your nodes on. Getting tired, sorry, I'm starting to run my words together a little bit. And so I'm going to make sure that I'm in draw. I'm going to make sure that I have the line on because again, if I've been in Pattern CAD and I've been going back and forth, it's important to realize that you really do have a line type even when you're drawing with this method, and you will run into problems when you go to edit if it's not in line when you're using this. So with the nodes on. So leaving it on 4 is fine with me. So I could make it smaller if I wanted to. What I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and copy this. So I'm going to make sure continuous lines is on, and I'm just going to give this a good old college try. I'm not super great with control. I've gotten some better with my mouse pad. Don't expect to be Picasso using this method. I think the people that I have seen that do really well with the drawing, first of all, they're very good artists to begin with. And I'm more of a copy and paste girl and trace it kind of girl, if I'm honest. But the people that are really good, I think that they probably have a stylus and a keyboard and a mouse all at once so that they can do all of that together. So if you are someone who wants to use a different device, you would want to practice obviously first um, to learn how to use these functions with whatever device that you're using. So, okay, getting there. Okay, so in this drawing, and all I've done is just trace over the top of it, I have a start right here and I have a stop right there. And that's probably not going to be great starting and stopping points for something that's going to be a continuous line if I want to do something more with this pattern. So it'll be something that I would have to edit. And how I choose to use this um, would determine what I would do next with it. So what I'm going to do first is because I want to show you the editing tools is let's just say I'm going to use this as the very basis of a new pattern. Maybe I want to make it into a pantograph. That's mostly what we want to do with things in Pattern CAD, but not the only thing you can do in Pattern CAD. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clear the background, say clear because I've now traced it. Clear. I'm going to put my grid back on there just because I like to have my grid. And now let's make the nodes invisible so I can see what I've got. So let's go into optimize. You can see it looks really shaky, and that's not unusual at all for using this method of drawing. And I can fix this. So let me show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, okay, it is a continuous drawing. I can see my start is right here, my stop is right there. I'm going to say, okay. And this is where some of the editing tools come into play. So I'm going to go into the edit mode right here. And I'm going to say select, and I'm going to say select all. And let's turn the nodes on just so you can see it has selected all of them. And then I'm going to turn them off so I can see what I'm doing. And what I'm going to want to do is I want to use this function right here. This is an editing tool called smooth. And you would only want to use this and it will only work as expected. Let me just put it that way. You can always try and use something, but it will only work as expected when you have a lot of nodes. So I'm going to try the smooth function. So watch what happens when I tap on it. You can see it's kind of smoothing out some of those bumps that were made in there. And so if I only hit that maybe 3 times, and I would be happy with this. So I would want to save that. And again, I've already saved it once, but if you hadn't saved it, you would want to save it just like that. So now what do I want to do with it? Well, there's some other things that I could do. If I wanted to make it into just a pantograph on its own, let's check out where things are. So my stop is right here and my start is right here. So let's say, okay, if I wanted to now draw, and to have a pantograph, I would need to have 2 a start and a stop that are in the same plane right here. So I would need to continue to draw. So maybe now I want to use the other kind of drawing. And let me say, I'm going to turn my nodes off and I want a spline. And I would probably want to bring my line probably down to about here first. And I'm going to turn my nodes back on. I'm going to say edit. I'm going to go up there. Let me find where that node is. So the end of my node is right here. I'm going to say unselect all to make sure I haven't selected anything. The end of that node is here, and the other end of that line is right here. And so now, good, my handles have shown up. So now I could kind of shape that line if I wanted to, give it kind of a curve if I wanted to. I could play with that line until I was happy with it. So, all right, I'm going to say unselect all. Let's zoom back out, and let's see what that looks like. So we have a hot mess here, and that's because when you're making a pantograph, what it's doing is it's trying to join your stop and your starts. You say, okay, and our stops and our starts are not on the outside edges of our pattern. So it's overlapping quite a bit. So now it would be really helpful if I could now draw some lines. I can edit this to bring some lines that come out of the outside edge of this pattern. And so let me go to draw. I'm going to say spline again, since it's in continuous lines, it's going to continue drawing from that stop point. So I want to pick a point that's outside of the widest part of my pattern right here. And so I'm just going to go, I'm going to click about maybe right to there. I'm going to hit my space bar because I didn't do anything in between. When I hit my space bar, it will select those lines for me and I can shape them a little bit. I'm going to say, select all. Well, what can I do with this one? Because these lines kind of need to be out here too. So maybe I can edit them. So I've zoomed in just a little bit and let's pick a bunch of these, maybe out to here and see if I can kind of pull it out to here. And that's good. Maybe if I change this line type, well, actually it's not far enough. It needs to be out at least as far as the outer edge of this one. And I want it to be close to the end point on this side. So, okay, so let me now unselect. Let's see if we have a straight line right here. If I select this point and I select that node right there and nothing points, I get no handles right there, that means that I have a straight line and I can change this line type so that I can edit it. So I'm going to, with just these two nodes selected, if I wanted to change a whole bunch of lines at once, I could do that too. So this will apply to anything that's selected. I select what I want selected, and then I'm going to right click, and this box comes up. I'm going to go to line type, and I'm going to say, let's make it a spline. And there we go. Now I've got some handles to pull on. And so I can now kind of shape this line a little bit more to where I want it. I could maybe even pull that line just down a little bit, just a little bit. So now let me bring this one up. Maybe bring this one over a little bit, just to do a little shaping. That's what editing is all about, is when you're editing, you want to select edit so that you're in the edit menu, and then you want to select what it is that you want to edit, and then you want to pick an action of what you're going to do. So when you want to change a line type, you would right click and find what line type. If you wanted to maybe insert a line or smooth the lines, you would pick what you want to do, choose the action, and then do that. Then you always, when you want to go to the next thing, you want to make sure you unselect all. It's very easy to forget that you've had something selected, especially when you start zooming in like this and you can't see your entire pattern. So let's go on out here and let's see what it would look like if we have a pantograph yet or not. Well, it's not quite out of the way yet because it's overlapping a little bit, but we're pretty close to what we could do there. So let's do this. Let's select this line. I'm going to pull it out a ways. Unselect. Let's select this line. Maybe we'll pull that out a ways. And now let's select preview. Okay, well, now they're not coming together anymore, but I can see it's not continuous because these two line ends, my start, my stop, are not aligned. So let me say, okay. And we've got just that one selected. Now let's select this one and we use our snap ends feature right here. And we know what this menu says, so I'm just going to say yes. And so now it's moved one of my points and let's see what it looks like. Well, there we go. Now we have turned a drawing, a little sketch, into something that's usable, into a pantograph. But that's not all we can do with editing. So let's see if we can't copy and paste this. Maybe I want to do something more with this. Let me move these points in first. I'm going to move these in, select that too. And see if I can move them in together. So because I have them all selected, you see it because I didn't unselect the right-hand side, what I'm doing. So this is why it's really important. That was intentional, by the way. So you would see that I'm going to unselect this one. I'm just going to try and move these in a little bit. So what I want to do is maybe copy and paste. And let's move this one down. Oops, I forgot. This time it wasn't intentional. Let me just say unselect and just select that point. There we go. And all right, so what I want to do now is maybe I want to make this have more than one flower in it. So let me say, I'm going to unselect all, then I want to select everything. And I don't have to redraw this. I don't have to save it and import it again. One of the things that you can do with the same pattern is copy and paste. So with everything selected, there is a little button, a function right up here that will allow you to copy something. So now you see that it copied, and I'm going to left click and drag to pull it apart, and kind of want to make it up away from everything first so that if I want to manipulate it, I can. I'm going to move over on my screen a little bit so we can do this. And maybe now what I want to do is maybe I want to rotate it a little bit. So with everything still selected, I'm going to pick an action, and then the menu is going to change. So here's my action. I'm going to click rotate. And now I have some of these arrows right here. And if I wanted to go this way, I would need to hit reverse. And I can go whatever these degrees are. I can get this to turn a little bit. Maybe I want to move it here. There we go. Maybe I want to make it a little bit smaller too. They don't all have to be the same size. So let's say size, lock, change my step a little bit, size a little bit. And again, before I join anything, I want to be sure I've got what I've got. What I mean by that is that if I want to do something with the full size, I'm not going to be able to have this option that I'm going to show you next. I'm going to say select, unselect all, sorry. So right now I have two different, they're the same design, and they're both on the active page or on the top sheet. And if I want to select just one of them to continue working with it instead of all of them, I can use this button right here, select section. And when I do that and I go to edit, select section, and all I have to do is left click and pull a little bit of the ways to what I want that whole section to be. And now that whole thing is selected. Except for it didn't select these last two buttons because they're not joined in optimize. I didn't go to optimize, which was I should have done. So now if I want to copy just this flower, I would need to add that section to it as well. And so I have this flower all selected. So if I wanted to copy this size of the pattern or do something with just this half of the pattern, because we have two halves now, I could still do that. So I don't like to join my patterns together until I'm sure I have what I want. So what I want to do right now is I want to unselect. I want to go to optimize, and I want to fix this right here. I can't say select or remove all, because what it would do is it would then just join this. This is an actual jump stitch, and we're seeing a jump stitch for the first time. These are not, it's not a break in the pattern. When you see a line like this, if I said remove all, let's do that, it would then try and connect these. I'm going to say cancel, so it'll go back the way it was and go back into optimize. I don't want to do that. So I have some options. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say check for breaks. I'm going to say animate stitching. When it gets to this one right here, I'm going to say, do I wish to remove this break? I'm going to say yes. Do you wish to remove this break? I'm going to say no. When it goes to this one, I'm going to say yes. Okay, now I'm going to say okay. So now I know that this is all one and this is all one. So let's go back to optimize. And if we were going to make this our pantograph, this is then in the correct order because we have one over here on the left and we have two on the right. So let me say okay, but maybe now I want to have the smaller one and a little bit rotated on that side. So let me go to edit, select, and I'm going to say selection, and it should select the whole thing, and it did. And let's say copy, and I'm going to drag it on over here, and let's move the screen a little bit. Drag it on up here, and let's rotate it the other way. So let's say rotate. Let's rotate it a little bit this way. Kind of get it close so that I know it can join. When it's close, they're not touching. That's good. Okay, so let's zoom out and see what it kind of looks like. Turn my nose off so I can kind of see. And you might play with it a little bit more, but my point is just to show you what you can do in the edit screen or with the edit function. So I think I'm going to be ready to join this. And there's a lot of ways I could do it. If I didn't care what those jump stitches might look like, I could just go into optimize and number this. So starting with 1, I get 1, 2, 3, and I could just remove all. I could just simply do that if I wanted to, but let's not do that. I could, if I didn't care what it looked like, I could do that. But let's not do that. That's just one of the options. Let's turn my notes back on. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And so maybe what I want to do, I'm going to say edit. Maybe what I want to do is I want to say select, unselect all, is just move this point closer to this one. And I have to turn this off first to do that. So unselect all again and select this node. Maybe I just want to pull it on over to this one. And then because I know I haven't joined them, I know that they're not joined. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say unselect all because I know only one of those points is actually selected. I'm going to select the whole thing and I'm going to snap it together. Now I know it actually is one node there, not two. So now, oh, it didn't join them. Let's try that again. Snap selected. It should let me, there we go. Now it's working. Kind of take both lines together now and edit them to make a better shape. And so I kind of did that. If I wanted, I could try and play with this a little bit more, but let's just move on. So I'm going to unselect everything. Now I've got to join the other one. And I can probably do the same thing with this one, but because I've got a whole bunch of nodes right here, it will probably be best to do this. Let's say unselect, grab this whole thing. Oops, not that one. Maybe do it this way. Unselect all, maybe then select these. See if I can't straighten it out a little bit. And what I might want to do now is just delete all of these. So let's try that out, delete. And then I have something that's easier to work with. I can select this one and then edit. So let me select that one. See if I can't get it to join right here. That's awesome. Now I'm going to want to snap these, and you can't snap a whole bunch at once. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to say unselect. I'm going to snap these first. Snap selected. And then I'm going to snap these. Snap selected. And maybe QCT has joined them all together, and maybe they haven't. Let's take a look and optimize. And it did. That's awesome. So now I've got something I can work with, and I don't think my endpoints are quite where I need them to be yet. So let's say, okay, let's scroll out and we'll go to preview. And I can see that they're overlapping. So I do need to move them out. So let's say, okay with that. So let's go to zoom in just a little bit. We'll do the one over here first. What I really need to do is make sure that my endpoint here is beyond the pattern. And so I'm going to make sure everything is unselected. I'm going to select just that point. Let's give it a pull, make sure maybe I need it to come up here again. And if I can select that point right there, it's aligned. Let's change my line type maybe to a spline. So now I can kind of give it a little bit of a curve if I want to. It's not so straight. Unselect. Let's go on over here and do the same thing. Let's see what our line type is already. If it has handles, it's got. So this is already a line type that's not straight, so that's good. And as you can see, when I selected it, it selected the box 2. That's okay. It's not going to have any effect unless 2 boxes are selected. So I'm just going to say unselect, select this point so I can move it. I want to move it out so it's beyond this point as well. Let's move it a little bit. And now let's preview. They're probably not at the right height. Again, so now they're not overlapping each other right here, but they are not the same height. So let me say, okay. And now that one is already selected. I can zoom out. I can select this one and I can say snap ends, and we're familiar with this message. So I can just say yes. And there we go. So now, all righty. So now we have used some more editing functions, and we have used rotate, and we have used this. We didn't have to use, yes, we did. We use size, and we've used move to draw, and with a sketch, having used a sketch and made a new pantograph. And you would absolutely want to save this. So I'm going to say okay. And if I saved it, oops, not select pattern, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say save. And you would want to bring it wherever you want to save it. Say pedal panto, maybe. Enter and save that so you know where it's at. So that is one way, and we used the method of drawing with the nodes on. So let's talk about editing with the nodes off, some of more of the things you can do with that. So one of the things that you need to start thinking about when you're starting to join patterns or make patterns is a strategy to do that. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, there's more than one way to make a design. You can do it all in one shot. For example, if I wanted to use two patterns, let's say I want to join two patterns. I can immediately bring this pattern in and bring it to the bottom layer, and then select the other pattern that I want to join to it. Here's another pattern, and I could select all and move it. And so now when I get to this point, I kind of have a decision to make. Do I want to redraw this, putting stops and starts where I want, or do I want to try and use the patterns as they are and join them with the existing stops and starts? And that's something that only you can decide. There's no right or wrong way to do this. There's just the way that works for you. And there shouldn't be any other question about it. Just use the method that works best for you. But what works for you may not be best for somebody else. So you should practice different ways of doing it and practice different strategies. And then you'll get to know which one that you're better at. Now, when I first started, I really was nervous about these insert functions, and I really wanted to learn how to draw. So for me, what I did is I started my own stop and starts. So then what I did was, okay, so now everything, this is on the top layer and this is on the bottom layer. So layers, I merged them together. Oops, I'm sorry. I wanted to merge the bottom to the top. So now they're both on the top layer. You got to optimize, and they're both on the top layer. So I know that they're both there. I'm going to say, okay. And then what I chose to do was then I said layers and I said swap. So now they're both on the inactive layer. And I decided that this would be a good way for me to learn how to draw using with the nodes off method. So let's practice that a little bit. So I'm going to say draw, and I want to start with a spline, and I want to start outside of my edge right here. And maybe where do I want it to join? Do I want it to join the middle? Do I want it to join? When I say join, where are the patterns and where is that pantograph going to come together? I could choose the middle. I could choose up here someplace. I could choose down here someplace, but I get to choose. And so I'm just going to say, let's just start about right here. So using the spline, I'm going to draw to here. I'm going to tap my space button, and I'm going to curve this line a little bit. And now, because I know when I use a zoom in feature that it will zoom in with this centered, it's bigger and I can kind of see more of what I'm doing. I'm going to just draw over the top of this. Now, you could draw this shape with a spline, or you could use a parabola. So that's what I'm going to do. And again, because I'm tracing it, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to draw, I'm going to tap my space button, and this is a parabola, so I could do a lot of things with it, but I'm just going to use that to make a nice gentle curve right there. And then I'm going to go back to draw. And because I'm an experienced drawer or artist, should I say experienced artist? Maybe I should. I know that this is an arc. So let me go to the arc shape. And if I go directly across and I tap the button, because remember, continuous line is selected, and then tap my space bar, I can then shape this line just like this. Now this is more of a spline. So let's use the spline function. Tap my space bar. So now I have a decision to make because this is pretty symmetrical. I can copy and paste this, or I can choose to draw it again. So just since you haven't seen the copy and paste, let's try that one more time. So I'm going to say unselect all, and let me fix this point a little bit first. I'm just going to select it, and I can move it just a little teeny weeny bit. There we go. So that's more where I want it. And I'm going to select just what I want to copy and paste. So I'm going to say copy, and then I'm going to come over here to flip. I'm going to say flip, and I can choose to go over the y-axis or the x-axis. So I want to flip this way. So I'm going to say flip. And now it has attached to right here. So I'm going to unselect that node, and I'm going to move it. And then I'm going to make sure that's an edit. I'm going to say select, unselect all. I'm going to reattach this point right here. And to make sure you can see, if you look carefully, it's not one line anymore. So I'm going to say unselect. I'm going to select both of these, and I'm going to say snap selected. So that's one point again. And now I can use this select section. So when I just left drag, now just that line segment is selected. So I can kind of drag it over here, drag it to these points just like that. And I can say unselect. Now I want to make sure that it wants to be continuous. So I'm going to snap some of these functions again, but I forgot to do unselect or to unselect the select section. So I'm going to say unselect all, and I'm just going to select this right here because there are two nodes right there and snap them into one. And I'll say unselect, and I'm going to snap these, say snap selected. And now I want to go to optimize and see what we have. Okay, we have a start. We have two line segments, and we don't really know what it wants to do. So let's unclick this, and it's going to show me a start and a stop right here. And now let's go to 2, and it has a stop and a start right here. Well, I don't want that. I need the start to be right there. So I'm just going to click on that button and look at that. QCT took care of it right for me, and now it's a continuous line. So I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to go back to draw now, and continuous line is selected. So it should start drawing from that stop point. And I know it's a parabola, so I'm going to select parabola, and I'm going to go right here. I'm going to tap the space button, and I'm going to shape it. Well, maybe I don't want this line. I don't have to have this line if I don't want to. And so I'm not going to. I'm just going to choose to kind of go up to this one. So I'm going to say draw. I'll probably want to use a spline so I can kind of give it some kind of a shape. So with continuous lines, I'm just going to go right to here, tap my space button, my space bar, and give it kind of a shape. And I want to go to optimize to see if it's all one line, and it isn't. Because this is just a break, I'm going to say remove all. I'm going to say okay. Scroll on over here, and we're just going to start drawing again. I'm going to use parabola, or let's use spline this time. I can use spline to get the same shape in this instance, in which case I have two handles that I can choose from to get that line. I'm going to say draw, and now I want an arc. Pull that out, draw, arc. And I only know that these are arcs because I've taught this class many times and I have drawn a lot. And once you start drawing a lot, you'll know when it's an arc and when it's a spline. I promise you. You just start practicing and you'll know. Say draw, and let's use spline again, just so we can get used to using two handles. Again, I'm tapping the space bar in between right to there. Okay. So now I know in order to join these two patterns, I need to get the next line to be at least as far out as this one right here. But I probably kind of want to make sure I have, to make it look pretty, I probably want the same distance between this and this that I have between this one and that one when it becomes one. So this line is pretty far out right now. So this one will probably want to be pretty close. So let me say, when I do draw, I'm going to put it close first. I'm going to say draw, I want a spline. So let's see, let's just bring it about maybe right to here. Tap my space bar. I'll shape that line a little bit. And let's start previewing and seeing what we've got. So, okay, we know it's not continuous, and we've got about the same spacing. So if this is my pattern, we've got about the same spacing right where it's at. So I want to say, okay, So really all I need to do is adjust the height of these, and it should be pretty close to what I want. So let's unselect all and select these two right here. And I'm going to say snap selected. Oops, that was a mistake. That's not what I meant to do. So I'm going to undo. Let's select them again. I want to snap ends. I want to snap my ends. I get the message that I'm expecting, and I'll say yes. So it'll adjust the height. And let's take a look at the preview. So now it's a continuous line, and the distance between this one and that one are pretty close. And maybe I would want to work on this curve. So if I wasn't happy with how that looked, I could say unselect all. Let's bring this down a little bit. Select this one. I can bring this one down a little bit. And let's say preview now. That looks a little better. I might be happy with that. Say okay. And then say snap ends and yes, and preview it out. So that looks better to me, and I might be happy with that. You could play with it if you needed to. You could try and make this more curvy. There are a lot of things, particularly when you get to a point where you're comfortable working with some mirrors, where you could use the tools endpoint continuity, where that would help you. But I'm not going to show that in here because the mirrors are a whole different thing to work with, and you don't want to start with mirrors right away. So I would be happy with that. And that was the way that I learned how to draw, was just by tracing things rather than try and connect them, because it forced me to start using the draw tools. Ultimately, you might want to draw all four of these together. So then you would have another decision you want to make. So you would have some options. You can, with this one on the top level, on the top layer, you could save just this. So let's do that. Cards, I'm going to say 2, enter, save. Now let's swap layers and bring those two up that were underneath of there, and we're going to delete them. We're going to clear that layer. So this was on the bottom. Let's bring this back up to the top. Layers, swap layers. So now this is back on the top. Our pattern that we've already drawn is on the top, and there's nothing on the bottom layer. So if I want to bring in another pattern, I would need to swap layers, select pattern. What if we wanted to now work with the heart pattern? Add that to the list. Add this. So when I talk about using a strategy, you would have a lot of different strategies. You could choose to put in all of the shapes you wanted all at once and then have them on the bottom layer. So you would use, your swap layer feature back and forth to get all the patterns that you wanted all at once on the bottom. Or you could do 2 at a time, bring in the first one, and then bring in the second one. Now this is on the bottom layer, and I could choose, well, where do I want to move this one? And I could say unselect all and then select all and move it to where I want it to be. Maybe I roughly want it to be right here. And then I could start adding them this way. So I would bring this one up to the top and then, add some tails to this one. So there is no right or wrong way to do this. You could have all of yours already here and then draw on top of them. You could have all of your shapes on one layer and then use insert line to insert lines to the already existing start and stop points. There's no right or wrong way to do this. There are just different options for whatever it is that you want to do. So like for me, I didn't want to have this bottom line, so it was fine for me to draw over the top of it. And so if I was going to do this, now I would probably move this out a little bit. And I have this already here. If I wanted to just, for this pattern, since it doesn't have that bottom spot, maybe I just want to use the heart that's here. And so I could manipulate, knowing that it's easier to manipulate my start and my stop points by having this layer on the underneath still. I might choose to draw and edit this by keeping this one on top first. So I'm going to go to optimize, make sure it's 1, and it is. I'm going to say okay. And now I know if I'm going to make this a pantograph and I need to have a line that goes out this way. So let's go to draw. I probably want a spline, and it's around that height, and I need it to be outside of this box. So let's draw it, because I had continuous line is always going to draw from the stop point. Tap my space bar, and those are my handles to kind of shape this line. I could go kind of up so that this one is making a different shape. And then I also need to have the tail that goes over here. So I can go to optimize and let's get rid of this one. It's just a jump. I mean, it's just a break in the pattern. So I can say remove all, and then I can say reverse so that my stop is right here. Say that. So now I can go to draw and I'll use spline again and I'll bring that point right to there and I can shape it so it's a little bit happier. Maybe it's a little smoother curve than it was over here. And I might be happy with that. So let's take a look. Before I go, I want to make sure this is all one continuous line and it's not. So I'm going to say remove all and I need my start point to be right here. So I'd want to reverse all before I swapped, except for now I don't need to swap. Now what I want to do is merge. So I want to go to my layers and I want to say to merge the bottom one up to the top. And so let's go to optimize now to see what it wants to do. Well, it's pretty much done all the work for us. It did go ahead and bring this one as the first line, and it's very close to where it needs to be. So I probably only need to say remove all, and it will be continuous for me. And in fact, it did. So I'm going to say, okay. So now I have this pattern, and I can see what it looks like. And it is continuous. And now I've got 3 of the 4 card symbols. And if I wanted to join the other one, again, I have options. I can bring this to, I would have to bring this down, swap layers, bring it down to the bottom layer first so that I could import this one. And there's the diamond. I can say open. I want to select it all and decide where do I want to move it to. Do I want to move it over here? Do I want to move it over to this side? It wouldn't really matter. It would be easier to go in this direction. And I would place it where it wants to be placed. And then I would have a decision to make. Do I want to use the start and the stops right here? Or do I want to bring this layer up to the top first and then bring them all back down to the bottom and start all over? Because maybe I want to start moving this. Maybe I'm not happy with this point. There's a lot of ways that you could do this, but I'm going to leave it as it is so I can show you another function. So we have right here a continuous pattern because the start and the stop are in the same place. But for drawing purposes, it would be better if that start and stop were on the bottom. So I can do this. I want to say unselect all. And because those are right up on top of each other, I'm going to select this. I'm going to use the edit feature that's over here in tools. It says move my start point. I'm going to move it. So now my start point and my stop point are both right here. I was only able to do that because even though it's shaped as a diamond, it was continuous and the start and the stop points were right up on top of each other. So that's the only reason I can do that. And I can control this when it's isolated, when the pattern is completely isolated. So now if I wanted to draw from here to here, I could do that. I could say draw, but it's going to go from the endpoint first. So it's going to go in this direction. It would be easier for me to go in this direction. So I'm going to say draw and I'll use a spline once again, and I'll put it over here, tap my space bar, shape my line, go to optimize, and you can see that it's a benefit to keep each shape. To me, at least, I think it's a benefit. So you can isolate the shape and get it optimized all by itself first. That's like just the bomb so that you don't have a whole bunch of things that you have to sort out. It's really great if you will optimize as you go. And so isolating them in this method, keeping the other layers, the other shapes on the bottom layer until you really need them is really the way to go with that. At least that's the way I do it. So I need to reverse this so that my stop is right here. And now I can draw a line to get it to there. Say draw, use the spline, bring it close to there, and let's shape this line. Kind of looks like this now. Now I'm going to say optimize, and it did stay in one line. That's super, but I want to remove it so that my start point is right here. I mean, I'm not remove it, reverse it. So reverse all. I'm going to say, okay. Now I'd want to merge these. Layers, merge the bottom to the top. Now everything's on the octave layer. Let's go up to optimize. And it is starting from over here and it wants to finish over here. And let's use the other method. Let's say, okay. And let's unselect, like select this one right here and say snap selected. and see if it made it one. And it did. So just by snapping those together, snapping those 2 points together, it corrected itself, and now it's one continuous line. So there are some other things that you can do when you use transform group. One of those is if you say select all, and this is an editing option, you can say transform, and you have some options up here: stretch, skew, and warp. Now these you can, when it automatically is by stretch, you can drag these and it will do all of your points all at once. Everything is in your box, everything that was selected, just like this. You see, we wouldn't really want to do that with this one because it'll start overlapping on itself. But these are some of the functions that even though they're not in the blue right here, that you can edit with. But you have to, again, go to edit, you have to choose select, and you have to choose what you're going to transform first. What are you going to edit? So you always have to do that first. So let's try inserting a point. That's one of the last things I want to show you. So if we wanted to insert a point, maybe we've decided that we want to add something, a little loop or something in between this. If I wanted to do that, I want to say unselect all, and I would want to start breaking up my points. When you select a point to edit, you can see that you can move it, right? You can move this point. If you try and do that, with it unselected, you will break the 2 points together, apart like this. So move them back together, and then I would edit and snap it back together. Let me just go to optimize, see what it's going to do. It still wants to keep it, so I'd say remove all. Okay, I'm going to say okay. So if I wanted to insert something, maybe I want to put a little loop right there. I could break these lines apart, and then I could say draw, and I could say to insert a line is different than drawing. So let's move this. Oopsie, I'm sorry. Undo over here. So edit, select this line again, and then it will center it when I go to zoom in. So let's kind of move this point around a little bit. So now I want to say draw. If I want to insert a line, I would need to say edit, and I would select this point, and I would select this point, and then I could say insert. Now, if I select these lines, it tells me that it's a spline because it has two handles on it. So then I could kind of shape that line if I wanted to make it into some kind of a loop, loop-de-loo, and that's a loop all the same. I could try and play with it more, but my whole point is just to show you that that's how you insert the line. That's how you would break something apart. If you wanted to have a pattern and insert something into that pattern, you would need to, with the nodes unselected. It's like, let's say, here's a better example. Let's say I want to do this. I'm doing this again without a script. Let's say we want to have an echo inside of this heart. So let's do undo. I can undo several times. Let's see if it'll go all the way back to that. It will. So let's go to optimize. Good, it's all one. I'm going to say, okay. Let's say that I want to insert some kind of an echo into this. So I'm going to unselect everything, pull this apart, pull this apart. And so let's go to optimize and see where it ends. So I'll probably want to start to keep it continuous. It would go up this way, and the stop point is right there. So if I wanted to echo, I'd want to then go this way. Change that. Start, stop. Okay, I'm going to say, okay, that's right. So now if I want to draw, I have to start. So if I want to insert something into this, I'm going to unselect continuous line. Otherwise, it would start from the other end where my ultimate stop point is. But I need it to start from right here. So I'm going to say draw. I'm going to say a spline. I'm going to draw a line from here to here. Tap my space bar and let's shape it a little bit. Now I'm going to go draw. I'm going to say arc right to here. Oops. Draw, arc, continuous line. Now let's try a spline, bring it down to here. All right. unselect. Now I could go to this whole mess right here and say snap selected. It's going to bring them all together for me. But I can see because it says my start and my start point are in the same, it's got the big and the red and the blue, I mean the red and the green. I'm not sure what it really wants to do, so I'll probably have to do some things inside of Optimize. So yeah, that's what we'll have to do. So we have a stop point over here, which we don't want. We want the start point here. So let's uncheck this. And this is showing us what our first line is. And it has our start point over here and our stop point over here. We don't want that. We're going to reverse it. There we go. That's 1. Now let's go to 2. Okay, so now it's saying 2 is right here, and that's where we want it to be. That's good. Let's say, where's 3 going? 3. Oh, it only has, nope, it wants to do 2. It doesn't want to do 3. So it wants to come back over here and have a jump stitch. So in order to fix this, I'm going to have to say, okay, I'm going to go over here. We're going to separate these lines a little bit. So let's go into Optimize and see what it wants to do now. Okay, so it's making this one line, and this is a continuous line. I need to break that one apart. I'm going to say, okay, I actually need to break this one apart first, and then I want to join all of these. Unselect. So what it had done is once I started adding these lines together, it joined them in such a way that I couldn't get this one as it was to sew out without a jump stitch. So I just pulled it apart, and I'm just going to kind of work with this one all by itself first, or this section of it all by itself, leaving this unattached. And I'm going to go through to Optimize. Again, I'm doing this on the fly. This is what I would do in real time, really and truly. And I'm going to first snap all these together first. Snap selected. And now let's go to Optimize and see how that wants to stitch out. So what it wants to do is go 1, 2, 3, and I don't want it to do that. We're going to make it go 1, 2, and then it's already joined that together for me with a jump stitch right there. And then that's going to, I hope that you saw what that did. And I have a start right here. It joined those where I wanted them to join. So now this is its own piece. And now I can join them together to make it one continuous line. I feel like I'm not explaining this well. It's hard to explain what you're doing and when you're editing. All right, so what I need to do is now move this one over. So I'm going to say edit, I'm going to say select. And because this is no longer joined to the rest of this, if I use select section and just go on one node, the whole thing is going to be selected. And I can just move it back to where it was, right? Like that. There we go. I'm going to say unselect. I'm going to take that off. I'm going to go to Optimize. I want to see what it wants to do now. That's good because it still wants to do all of this as one piece. And then that one it wants to be second. So now if I say remove all, now I have a continuous line. So that's how it's not very pretty, but that's how you would insert something into a pattern, into an existing pantograph. And that was an editing feature if you're going to edit some patterns. So we've talked about a lot of things, and I've done a lot of the functions inside of Optimize already. So I'm going to add a little bit of Optimize just by talking about Optimize right now, the features that we haven't talked about, and just so that we can be sure that I covered everything, I'll talk about each of these features. First, let's talk about the animate stitching feature. So you can click animate and it will show you how it's going to draw out. Now you have a speed right here, and I have not found that changing the speed is supposed to change the speed, but I don't find that it changes it that much. But you could bring it down to 1 and then say animate again. And that to me looks like it's going faster or not changed at all, but I don't know. But you can change the speed. And you can also check for breaks. If you have a break in this pattern anywhere, I think I've shown this to you once before. If there was a break, it would stop at the break and it would give you a message. Do you want to remove that break? And you could choose yes or no. So that's what the check for breaks does. And that's what the speed does. And that's what animate stitching does. That's all right through here. Well, now we have the reverse all button. So that is talking about your end points, your stop and your start points. If you have a whole bunch of line segments, if you say reverse all, it's going to reverse all of them. So be careful when you choose this feature because again, it's going to choose all of them. If you have a whole bunch of jump stitches or stop and starts that are in the wrong direction, you can choose auto reverse first, and QCT might actually fix it for you. If you might have one or two sections in there, say you're editing a pattern, you've drawn something and you didn't edit as you go, or you've bought a pattern and it's got some issues with it, and you bring it in, and you could bring it into Optimize, and if it has one or two sections in it that look weird to you, you can always try the auto reverse, and it might try, it says there must be a pattern with two sections for auto reverse to work. So it will only have a function if you have at least two sections in it, and then it's going to do its best to try and make a continuous line. But it may not correct all of them if you have a whole bunch. So just, that that's what it does. If you were to have a trim line in here, jump stitches, you can uncheck this button. And because I don't have any, you won't see what that function does, but it would remove the lines so you could just see your endpoints, or you can make sure that it's on. I would usually want to have them on. That way, if you have a jump stitch versus just a break in the pattern, you can see where it's going to be going to, and if it's something that you can edit quickly, or if it's something that's going to be more involved. Then you have your show function right here and the box that goes with it. So your show function has two purposes, really. When you uncheck it, if you have more than one line segment, it will, whatever number is in this box, it will show you the stop and the start points and highlight only that particular line. So in this one, where we're at right now, it only has one line. Let me say, okay, if I were to pull something apart so that it had two and go to optimize, well, now it has two, and it will show you which lines are going to stitch out, where their endpoints are, where that break is in the line, and you can see what order it's going to be in. So if I wanted to put this back together, I would want to again look in this box, because I can change the stitching order when I'm in optimize. So with number one in this box, I'd want to make this number one. And now this is number two, and that's good. My stop point is right there. My start point is right here. That's good. So I can probably just put it back together. So if I say okay, and if I were to make sure it's an edit and select this point, kind of bring it back on up there, I can say unselect all, and just so we can show how this picture is going to work, I'm going to say optimize, and now it still wants to have a jump start because it wants to start at the wrong end. See number one, but it has the stop point over here. So if I just tap on this line, it reverses it. So now I have one here and two is right here, but we see that there's it's in the wrong order. The start point is right here and the stop point is right here. I'm going to click on that line. Good. All right. So now the stop and the start points are close together. But now what I want to do is I could have tried to snap these points together. My point is when you don't have a jump stitch, you can just say remove all, and it will join them for you. It will snap them for you, and you have a stop and a start in the right order. So that is the section that we have on editing. There are a lot of other things you can do with edit, but those are the basics, and you're probably going to use these the same way over and over again. And it is very good practice to just pick some patterns, put them on your bottom layer, and just draw over the top of them and try and add some things together. Draw and edit, draw and edit. And that is really a good way to practice. The very last thing that I want to show you is how to use Select and Sew and Pattern CAD together. So I'm going to X out of this. I'm going to erase everything. And I'm going to close out of Pattern CAD. But I want you to look right here that there's nothing under the swap right here. There's nothing underneath here. So I just want you to be aware that there's nothing right there. So I'm going to close out of this. I'm not going to save anything. I want to go into Select and Sew. If you have a really complicated pattern, think dream big. Think of your dream big panels. I'm going to say, okay, when you want to use Select and Sew, that's for placing your patterns, not pantographs. It will always make you pick a pattern first to get into Select and Sew, and it doesn't really matter which one you pick. So I'm just going to pick the one that usually occurs in the top block, because you're not, for what I'm going to show you, it's not going to stitch it out. So I'm going to say open. And here's the block that I just selected, but I don't want to use it. So I'm just going to move it out of the way. So to use this method, you would want to be at your frame, because if you were at your, just think dream big, think that in your head. you would want to then trace a petal or the shape that you want to put in your irregular pattern into. So let's just say that I'm at my frame and I would want to go to the toolbox and I want to use the marking tool. So here I'm in the marking tool and I'm at my frame and I'm going to draw a petal. Fair warning, I'm very bad at this when I don't have something to trace. So I'm going to just kind of make a petal right here. And this is very rough. I'm not very good at it when I don't have something to trace. Oh, that's really bad. That's okay. That's okay. So I think it's got to have a point like that. Maybe we'll go back this way. Add. Okay, there's my very poorly drawn petal, but there it is. So if I have now used the marking tool, and this is my real life tracing of the petal because I'm at my frame and I've traced it, and then I close out of Select and Sew and immediately go into Pattern CAD. Now we have this new button right here called Safe Area. So when I click that button right here, this is actually, those red lines are my safe area, and this is my actual marking right here. That's the marking that I just made. So now I have this is going to act like a template. So it's not anything that I can edit. It's not anything I can do with, but I see the shape. And so I have two active layers and this one that I can play with. So if I wanted to go and pick a pattern, let's say I'm going to go to patterns and I want to put this one in there, a petal shape. It pulls in at whatever size it wants to pull in at. And I can say select all, and I'm going to edit this pattern first so that it will fit in that space. So I'm probably going to go to size first. Let's make my nodes invisible. And I want to lock it in the beginning at least and change my step. And let's just shrink it. Smooth it a little bit too. I can see you're definitely going to need to rotate it. So let's click reversed and rotate it a little bit. And we'll just keep moving it a little bit. And let's size it till it fits inside of there. That's not great. Let's rotate it just a little bit more. Reverse. All right. So it's not in there great, but that's okay because we have a function in Select and in Pattern CAD that you do not have inside of Select and Sew, and that is your transform group. This is where this is just an amazing feature. So if I now transform the group, you're going to have these three boxes right here, and you're going to have more than one. You have stretch that has these boxes. You have skew that has the corner selected, and then you have warp. I love warp for something like this because what it's going to allow me to do is to warp and pull on this pattern to get it to fit as best I can quickly within Pattern CAD. So I'm going to left click on this right here. That's going to pull that point out a little bit. I can maybe push this one in a little bit until I get that side to fit inside of there. And I can, in fact, zoom in so I can see it better. But when I do, I have to do that again and say select all, say transform group, warp again. All right. So now I can see a little bit clearer that I want to kind of get that point to come up to there. Well, maybe now I want to widen some of these out. I want to pull that out so it fills this box in a little bit better. You can see I am reshaping this in a way that you cannot do in Select and Sew. So now it's kind of within this boundary. This one might need to come up a little bit. I can do that. Maybe I want to pull this one out. What happens when I pull that one? It's pulling further and further. And I can play with this until it's like the best that I can get it. And here's the other great part. So let's say I'm happy with that. So now all I have to do is go to quilt. When I hit this button, quilt, anything that's on the active layer. So if I had wanted to use another pattern to put inside of this empty space right here, by the way, I could do that. I could just go to layers and I would say swap layers Now that's on the bottom layer, and I could go to select and sew and pull up anything else and put it inside of there. I'm not going to. I'm going to say cancel. I'm going to bring this back up to the top, but you would then merge the bottom to the top, and then I'm just going to say swap layer so it's back on the top. When everything that you want to sew is on the active layer right here, you're going to go to quilt and it's going to go back to select and sew, but you have to save it first. I'm going to say okay. So I don't want to save it as petal because I've edited it, right? I want to have the real pattern. So you would not ever want to save over the top of what your real pattern is. So I can call it anything. I'm just going to call it one so I can get through the screen. I'll say one, I'll say save. It's going to go right back into select and sew. And here we are. You can see it's inside just as we left it inside of Pattern CAD. Well, now I'm going to say, okay, well, now I want to quilt it. So I'm going to say quilt, and it's going to give me a message. It's going to say the pattern has not been placed. Do you wish to proceed? Okay, well, I didn't place it in select and sew, but I have already placed it inside of Pattern CAD. So I'm going to say yes. So I will say yes to this. And there we go. It is all ready to quilt. It's got my marking on the outside. It's not going to stitch the marking. It's only going to stitch the pattern. And I will just pull the bobbin and give it a sew. So this is my Pattern CAD class, and I am sure there are things that I messed up, and for that I'm going to apologize in advance. But I can offer this class to you individually, and I'm going to keep this up for 30 days, and I really hope that you will like and share. So I would love to see people using Pattern CAD more often if they just knew how to use it. Okay, so let's go over the big ideas that we talked about today. How we talked about layers and that you have more than one layer that you can see all at one time. And you're going to go back and forth between your top layer and your bottom layer the most, and with your reference layers that you can't do anything with. You have two different ways to draw, and neither one is better than the other. They just behave very differently. So you should practice how you're going to draw and which one you're more comfortable with. With editing, editing is so important, and you can't do drawing without editing. And you can't do editing without optimize. So when you're going to be editing, make sure you select what you want first, and then you choose an action afterwards. So make sure you select and unselect so that you're selecting only what you want, and then choose an action, and then unselect so that the next thing you select or the next thing that you edit isn't the same thing, or acting on something that you didn't want. That's a little bit wordy. Sorry about that. And then optimize. You're going to want to optimize as you go because ultimately you're going to be stitching this out. Remember that in your layers, the reference layers are not going to stitch and they're not going to save. But when you optimize all these other things that you do with your layers and with your drawing, importing things and exporting things and shifting your lines, you want to have probably ultimately one continuous line. And it is much better to try and optimize as you go so that you're left with a continuous line at the end, or something you can make into a continuous line without too much of a headache. So those are the four big ideas. And now I think I'm done. Happy quilting.